So, thank you again for joining our monthly chat and chew. We are discussing ways to beat the heat with some cool moves. And we're going to be talking about how to keep up our movement during the summer heat and perhaps even extreme heat. So, again, welcome. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are hosting this session today and where we work, live, and play is the unceded traditional and ancestral territories of the Coast Salish peoples. For Poplar, Tina, and myself, we're in Vancouver. So this is the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to take a moment and if you know the lands on which you're on, feel free to post them in the comments in the Zoom comments chat box. For our chat and choose, we like to create a nice safe space, a place where we can share, we come openly and willingly. This is a place to share thoughts, values, opinions, fears, and we like this space to feel open so that you can share without judgment. So we thank you in advance for creating this space for everyone. Um, as you know, some of you have been to a few of our chat and chews. We like to get off topic, and that's okay. But if we're off topic for a little too long, we'll nudge the conversation back to movement and dealing with extreme heat. At the end of our time together, we'll kind of do a formal ending, but if you have any further questions, we will stay on for about 5 minutes or so to address those, and then we'll close the Zoom session. And as we mentioned, you'll have the recording to go back to at any time that you need to, and you're welcome to share that recording, which will be on our YouTube and in the Poplar community with any friends or family members. We do have some upcoming events, just a quick FYI. So we've got Better Breathers Club tomorrow. This is our BC online event together with the BC Lung Foundation. We're continuing the talk on heat and extreme heat, but we're going to talk about tools. And what we like to do in the BC Better Breathers Club is send you off with one practical tool to get you through breathing easier through the heat of the summer. So we hope you'll be able to join us. The Zoom link is on our website. We also have an event in our Poplar community on Wednesday to discuss oxygen. So if you're using oxygen or you feel like you might need oxygen in your future, we hope you'll join us at 2:15 in the Poplar community as we have this discussion. And last but not least, we have our inhaler technique workshop happening on Friday at 1 p.m. Without further ado, let's get cozy and comfy, and I will stop sharing my screen. We've heard from some of you on the things that you'd like to discuss about heat, and so we can get to addressing some of your questions. We really apologize. We lined up our expert, and we hope all is well on her end as she's not in the Zoom here and we're not sure why. So, but we appreciate you all being here. So with that said, I will invite maybe Tina to start us off with one of the first questions from our group.
Sure. Okay. I'm just looking through the comments here. So part of, or just in general, looking through the comments here is comments about our homes being hot. And so this is a really good point, is that there's indoor heat and then there's the outdoor weather, right? So we can have our indoor environment, which can be different than the outdoor environment. And we do have control over our indoor environment. There are some things we can do to keep it cool. And some of you have already suggested and done those things, like getting a big heat pump, which also serves as an air conditioner. You can install those big permanent air conditioners with like the one big outside piece that cool off the whole home. But then there's also ones that go by room as well. So you can just get the room air conditioners. And BC Hydro did have some resources. They do have a free air conditioner program for those that are eligible. And we've posted that information in the chat. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, we can post it in the video comments as well. So that's for people in BC anyways. So certainly cooling down the indoor environment. Now, not all of us will have air conditioning units. Maybe that's not installed yet. Maybe it's not ready to go. So there are some things you can do to keep your house as cool as possible when it's hot outside. And one of those things is regulating the airflow and the amount of sun that comes into our place. And so if we're thinking about the outside air temperature, we want to maximize that and let that coolest of the cool that the day has in. And then when it's really hot outside, we want to block that out. And so ways we can do that is open the house at night, sort of later in the night and early in the morning is when it'll be coolest outside. So that's when you want to have your windows open if it's not smoky day. Have the windows open, let the air flow, get the fresh air coming in. And then as the day starts to heat up, you want to trap that coolness inside and you want to stop the sun from heating up your indoor space as it heats up the outside. And so to do that, so you would have the windows open in the evening, open in the morning, and then maybe later morning, you're closing the windows, you're going to lock in the coolness, and you're going to close the curtains. And if you can get dark curtains or something reflective, like they have blackout curtains, or you'll see people put like that tin foil window blockers up, anything that reflects the heat away. And it can be very effective, actually. I grew up with a mom who was very diligent about doing that. And our house was always pretty comfortable, especially compared to the outside weather that we used to get back in Ontario. So the house will be dark. Don't compensate with too many lights. Use LED lights, not the ones that are generating heat. But keeping the house cool and dark, make it your cave in the afternoons and early evenings. And then again, as it starts to cool off outside, then you can open the windows up again, open the drapes and everything. Has anyone tried doing that method? No?
I do. I have Venetian blinds, and so it's easy to shut them and block it out. I don't have any curtains in the living room area, just the blinds. But those do block the worst of it when the sun's coming in.
Nice. Yeah, it does make a difference, especially if you have windows where the sun actually comes right in. It makes the most difference. Yeah.
Before we had our air conditioner, we made panels out of that silver insulation that would fit right into the window. We mounted it on the sides of sticks, and we would just drop the curtains down a little bit, slide it up between the window pane and the curtains, and it works really, really well. We bought it
Smart.
like at Home Depot.
Mhm.
It's actually an insulation wrap for hot water tanks.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
for
So it's got a
people
bit of
that-
thickness.
Yeah, or for
Yeah.
people that are snowbirds, when they come back home again, before they come, they have to insulate and winterize their trailer for the hot, hot sun. So that's what we did. And then you just roll it up on the stick. And we store it in the basement, and then we only did it on the one side of our house because we get the sun on one side, really intense heat. So that does really work well.
Nice. Good pro tip there, Barb. Awesome.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, it really does, especially like you say, when the sun comes in through the window, like you've got to block it out. Even if you're using air conditioners, they have to work a lot harder to compensate for that. So even if you do have a heat pump or an AC unit, it can still help, especially the small portable ones. They only heat
Mhm.
a certain amount of the space. So you would want to put those in the coolest area of your home and spend that time in the coolest areas of your home if you're not going to cool off the whole house. Awesome.
Along maybe similar lines, and I heard you all talking about refrigerators earlier, but same thing with your big appliances that generate heat, like the dryer. You might want to rearrange your day a little bit so that you're doing that in the coolest parts of the day, whether that's a little bit more in the evening or the early morning. Um, and of course, use the other tips and tricks for your breathing to kind of help you through like the pacing and things like that. Any other big appliances that we're missing? The fridge and the dryer, I think, are the big ones.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd say you can almost get away with not using a dryer in the summer if you can put your clothes out on a line to dry anyway in the sun. They like the sun.
The dishwasher gets out a lot of heat as well.
That's right.
That's true,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
uses the hot water. Yep, dishwasher. Yep.
Yeah.
And you can wash your dishes by hand in cool water in the summer. It'll help cool you down if you put your hands in cool water.
Mhm.
Yep.
And some of the dishwashers too, you can choose whether you do the hot dry cycle. So it might be worth just doing the cool drying cycle and then just leave it open, let it air dry. Yeah,
Yeah.
that might. All these
Good
little
tip.
things.
Yeah, it adds up. It
Right.
adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing in terms of breathing and easing the breathing is fans. And I know we've already mentioned this too, but it's worth re-mentioning. So air that's not moving can feel like it's more stuffy and it can feel like it's harder to breathe. And having air blowing in your face really does help to ease that shortness of breath feeling. So Kathy, you mentioned, you know what, you'll just sit right in front of a big old fan. I love it.
Yeah.
It helps. It really helps.
It
Yeah.
does.
And Connie, I know you're a big fan of little fans. Have you got one there? Yeah. So little fans. Oh, you're on mute, Connie.
I was gonna say I have them everywhere.
Yeah.
I have little fans, so
Yeah, and they're rechargeable like
It's
a
nice.
USB
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So having those handy, especially in those moments where you're like, oh, I'm short of breath, you know, even if you're going out of the home, you can bring them with you. They're so small. Yeah.
A friend of mine, I meant to take a picture of it. I should do this for tomorrow's talk, but she got one off of Amazon that just plugs into her phone and then just sits up like that and uses the battery on the phone too. It's a little portable
That's
one.
smart. That's
Yeah, so you can
insane.
get some really unique ones out there for sure. And then alongside helping you just physically cool down, like what Tina said, through the movement of air, these fans are also really helpful to use if you're feeling short of breath, especially with exercise. So we often offer in our classes to turn a fan on and have it blow at you while you're doing your exercises. And there's a couple of receptors that we have that send feedback to our brain to let our brain know how well we're breathing. So there's some in our neck and there's some in our lungs. And so sometimes this blowing action, that feeling of the air, can activate these receptors, and the shortness of breath that we feel that might be physical, but we also talk a lot about in our classes that it is psychological as well, like past experience of feeling short of breath. So to help that calming and to help the receptors to be able to tell the brain, you know what, we're okay. That fan, that feeling of the air can really help.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, while we're on fans, so the fan is blowing cool air over your skin. And part of what cools us down is evaporation of water. And that's partly why we feel cool when there's a fan blowing, because it evaporates the water from our skin and gives us that cooling sensation. And so that's water leaving your body. And so the more you use fans or the more you're in a breeze, even just on a windy day, you need to hydrate more to compensate for that. And it is the water leaving your skin that makes it feel cooler. And especially if you're exercising, you'll get that sweat. It's going to help cool you down. It's going to feel wonderful, but you've got to rehydrate. So especially due to the heat And if you're using fans, which we probably all are, so be extra diligent with drinking water, and you might even want to consider using something like Pedialyte, which will help replenish those electrolytes because we sweat out that, salty sweat as well. So a reminder, and I know we all hear it a million times, but you know what? When we're hot, it's just, you gotta, the reminder helps. Yeah, so keep hydrated. It will help to cool you as well. Yeah. All
And
right.
I know in one of our classes we were talking about flavors of the Pedialyte. So if anyone has a favorite flavor, if they've ever tried any of these replenishing drinks, let us know in the chat if you've got a favorite flavor. Has anyone tried exercising with a fan blowing right at them?
I have
yet?
one right behind me. I always have one right behind me when I exercise
Okay.
all the time.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay.
Then when
Awesome,
you're
Kathy.
doing a standing march, it might feel like you're going really fast.
Absolutely.
I have a pair of sunglasses that I wear and I call them my fast shades because they're very cool and aerodynamic looking. Fans are the same, just like. All right, shall we talk about exercising in the heat and how to do that safely? So there are things you need to watch out for when you're exercising in the heat. One of them is dehydration, which we did mention. So drink water before you exercise, drink water during exercise, and drink water after exercise. Literally make sure you do those 3 things to compensate for the extra sweating that you will most likely be doing. So dehydration is a concern, and our bodies tend to compensate for that when we start to dehydrate. So we might not notice it right away, but there are little things you can watch out for. So if you do have one of those little oxygen probes, the pulse oximeters, if you're used to checking it, you'll probably know about the range that your heart rate is in. And so one thing you can do is take your resting heart rate. And that would be usually, maybe just before you go to bed or just before you get up. And that's when you're nice and relaxed or when you're just sitting for a few minutes. Just check what your normal resting heart rate would be. And when it's really hot out or if we start to dehydrate, our heart rate will be a little bit higher. So if you notice that your resting heart rate is a little bit higher than usual, your body's probably working to cool you down, and it could be a sign of an initial sign of dehydration. So that could be one tip to you. Just drink more water, stay cool, need to relax. Some people take medication that controls their heart rate, so that sign might not be there. And then the other thing that happens is that our blood pressure can get lower. And signs of a lower blood pressure would be you might feel a little bit dizzy in the heat. Some people feel dizzy. That can be due to dehydration, but it could also be due to our blood vessels open up in the heat to try and let some cool off our blood. And so that can drop our blood pressure too. So we want to be careful. So if we're looking flush, like you're red in the face or your hands are hot, hands and feet being really hot, that might be an early warning sign that you're starting to overheat. So if you start to notice some of these things, that might be your body telling you that maybe today is not a good day to exercise and just being in the heat is enough work. So we do want to listen to our bodies. When you start to, if you don't feel quite right. Also, sometimes an upset stomach. If there's not a lot of blood pressure in the body, our body will redirect blood away from our gut. And so that's why you might, people throw up with heat stroke or when they have a hangover. So that's a dehydration problem. So having a weird stomach without any other reason, feeling lightheaded, hot, sweaty, all of these things, higher heart rate. So do listen to your body and do check these signs and take them seriously. So if you're not feeling any of those things and you're like, I should do exercise, but it's pretty warm out, here's some tips. Exercise at the coolest time of day. So when would that be? Lay in your votes. Morning, afternoon, evening,
Morning or evening.
morning or evening. Perfect. Yeah,
But not
earlier in the
too late,
morning.
because then you can't go to sleep.
Yes.
That's right. That's true, Jeannie.
Yeah, so if where you are, if it doesn't cool down until really late, maybe the evening wouldn't work. If maybe you've got a nice sea breeze and it cools down early enough, you could do evening. Just check your temperature forecast and see how it's looking. So usually early in the morning is probably the best option. And you can have the windows open then if it's nice out, coolest time of day. Yeah. So do it then. Do it in the coolest room of your home that you can possibly find. If you have a basement, that's usually quite cool. Do it in the darkest, the dark, cool room. Yeah. And you might want to keep your workout shorter. Um, because you'll find that doing what you normally do will seem harder. And your heart will actually have to work harder in the heat just because our body has to cool itself down. So it is fair to do less in the heat. Your body is still working hard, and that's okay. Be forgiving. Treat yourself lovingly. Yeah. Um, so are you all familiar with the Borg score?
Yeah.
Modified Borg score. It's a scale. It's a scale from 1 to 10. Oh, Jenna, do you have yours handy?
I
You
don't
Nope.
actually, but
I have one
as you
online.
speak, I will. Yeah, we'll bring it
Okay.
up. I can
Okay.
bring it up.
Okay. Cool. So the Borg score is a breathlessness scale. And so that's how we like to gauge our intensity. And so a lower Borg score means that your breathing feels good and normal and easy. And a higher Borg score, like even 6 is pretty high, is like severe shortness of breath. And it can lead to, this spiral of shortness of breath and feeling a little out of control. And so when we exercise, we like on exertion, we can be okay with a Borg score of around a 5 or a 6. Here we go. Yeah, so this is the Borg score. So 0 is like no work of breathing, and 0.5 too. Yeah, like very, very little. Um, and then it starts to climb as we do more exertion, or as we feel shortness of breath for any reason. And so if we're doing a warm up, we like to have our Borg score around a 2 or a 3. So when you're doing a warm up, you should be able to talk through it. It should feel like, yeah, I think I could do this for a little while and I'll be all right. So when you're doing a warm up, about a Borg score 2 to a 3. And then as you start to do more intense exercise, you're going to want to be between about a 3 to a 5. So you should have moderate to severe shortness of breath, meaning if you had to say a sentence, you're probably going to take a couple of breaths in the sentence. Something like, I'm feeling a little bit short of breath right now. So you're taking breaths in there while you're working out, and you couldn't carry on a conversation. So if you're doing exercise that is strenuous, like a resistance workout using weights, during that period of time, you should not feel like you can talk. You should feel short of breath. You can also use the singing analogy. So during a warm up, maybe you could carry a little bit of a tune, but during the actual workout, you're not going to be able to sing. And so we use this Borg score to adjust the amount of exertion that we're doing. And if you're having a lung flare up, your Borg score can go up even without exercise. So if at rest, your Borg score is creeping up higher than it normally would be, that's also a sign that maybe you need to take it easy for your workout today. And so you may find that things that you could normally do in a cooler environment, you're not able to do when it's really hot. And that's normal. That's normal. And we need to adjust our workout to be more appropriate to the exertion level, right? So we want to keep our shortness of breath under control. Did anyone have any
have a
questions
cute
about the Borg score, especially if this is your first time seeing it?
I just have a cute little story to add in here. The popular or the lung excuse me, the lung rehab class that I belonged to before popular pulmonary. There was a lady in our class and she used to like to talk the whole time we exercised. And every now and again, the instructor would say, Victoria, you're not working hard enough. You can carry on the whole conversation. Get moving, get moving. And she would give her heck all the time. Yeah, it's true.
Your board score is not high enough.
That's
Cute.
great.
Cute. I love it. Yeah, and then she's right. Yeah, so good for a warm up, fine for a warm up, but actually if you want to maximize your workouts, you really shouldn't be able to keep up a conversation. Yeah. Yeah. At Poplar, we use the phrase, another workout done and I am having fun. So if you can get that all in without taking a breath in there, you're not working hard enough.
We haven't used that in a little while. That's a
I
good
know, I was just
reminder.
thinking that too. I
Yeah.
haven't, yeah, we'll have to bring that back. Yeah.
There's
Yeah, so
singing
the
groups
Borgs,
in,
sorry,
are there
Jeannie?
are there singing groups in BC that lung patients
Oh,
can join?
well, there's going to be a harmonicas group. Yeah, learn to play the harmonica to improve your breath control. We're working on it. It's not formalized yet, but it's in the works. But I don't know if there's any singing ones. Have you got a singing one out there, Jeannie?
I have one that is accepting new members. It's out of St. John's, out of Memorial University, and the leader's name is Jane Gosine, Gosine. So I can send you her information. She has a in-person class and also a hybrid virtual class. So in our virtual class, we average between 16 to 20 people. It's on a Wednesday night, 7:30 Newfoundland time. So it's 6 o'clock Ontario time. So maybe it's 3 o'clock your time. I think you're 3 hours behind us.
Yeah.
And she has a physiotherapist who does body warm-ups and breathing exercises. And then she leads the vocal exercises and the singing. It's an hour long, and it's I find it quite enjoyable. I have another group here in Toronto, but the Toronto group is linked to the rehab. So unless you're in our rehab program, you can't come in at this stage anyway, because it's funded by a particular group in it's funded through I think a legacy donation. So right now it's a closed group.
Is the hybrid singing one available for people who can only join online? Is that okay?
Yes, and she says that you could bring your family and friends along too.
Nice, nice.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah, so I'll send that link to you after this meeting.
That would be great. Thank you. Yeah, Connie.
And in the Vancouver Island support group, Dr. Holly Smith tells me that she belongs to an in-person singing group choir group where you can bring your oxygen. And that's just because they're a very accepting group of everyone who's differently able or different in any way. Which sounds
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
I think I see her on the pulmonary fibrosis support group, the national support group.
That's her. Yeah, that's Holly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same person. Yeah, she's on their board. Yeah. Shout out to Holly.
Wonderful. There is definitely more offerings out there and fun ways to keep our lungs strong and open. So we will help to share this information as much as we can in our Poplar community, and any links that we attach to the recording of the video. So thanks so much for sharing. we've got about 10 minutes, and I wanted to address Jeannie's question about the coughing. So, coughing with pulmonary fibrosis, it comes up quite a lot as a symptom that some of you experience. And we were talking about this recently. There doesn't seem to be the magical golden answer to it. It definitely is, you know, when it comes on, it sounds like can be really hard to control. So we would encourage you to number one, talk to your doctor about the symptom, especially if it's new. To see whether some medication treatment options are right for you. So sometimes there are options to block the coughing reflex, especially if it's keeping you up at night and really impacting your quality of life. So do talk to your healthcare professional, your doctor. But Jeannie, the way you just described the coughing, one thing that I was thinking about was along this idea of dehydration and dryness. And so sometimes it's a combination of wearing oxygen that can cause things to be really dry that might be triggering. And so some ways to overcome this is to do one of two things. Think about the humidity in the ambient air that you're breathing in. And this would mostly be in your home or the areas of your home where you're spending a lot of time. As respiratory therapists, we don't usually recommend humidity because we always kind of worry about too much moisture in the air and causing mold and things like that. But in the case where something external is really drying you out, focusing on the humidity in your home can be really helpful. And you can get a little measuring device if your thermostat doesn't already have it. You can get it from a home hardware store. They're called hygrometers. They're very inexpensive, and you can move a portable hygrometer around your home and kind of check what the relative humidity is like. When we look into the research to tell us, okay, well, what's a good humidity level? Most resources will tell you somewhere between 30 to 60%, with maybe 40 to 50% being the ideal relative humidity for your home. So sometimes if we're running the air conditioning, that can dry us out a little bit too. So, you know, look at these things. The heat too. If you don't have a humidifier attached to your furnace, in the winter with the heat, in the summer with the air condition, all of this can kind of dry out the air a little bit. So look at the relative humidity in your home. The other thing, other than the ambient air, some people have found it helpful for those of you using oxygen to do a nasal rinse, a saline nasal rinse. This is a saltwater rinse. There's a specific way to do it. I'll just put in my key message right in here. That's please don't use tap water. So you're using boiled water, filtered bottled water. And the saline packets that you can get from a pharmacy. And you can do it as much or as little as you need. And it just is a rinse that will go up one side of your nostril and out the other. Some people have found that to be helpful, as well as there are some gels, water-based gels that can be helpful for the nostril. Has anyone tried any that uses home oxygen, tried any of those, or have any thoughts on what's worked for you in
Those
terms of dryness?
are best if they're water-based, like Sakaris.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Connie's got hers. Yeah. Perfect. And then I'll just offer one other thing, Jeannie, as you were speaking. So the other thing I thought of when you were describing your situation, entering the grocery store and kind of feeling this cough come on is for those of you with reactive airways, sometimes that change in temperature or the change in humidity can trigger symptoms like cough. So for example, if you're going, let's say, Jeannie, you were saying you're in Toronto, it's very hot and humid there right now. So you're out in the hot and humid, and then you go into the grocery store, which is cool and air conditioned, and that change can be very reactive in our airways and can cause the airways to get a little bit sensitive and twitchy, and that can make you cough. So some ways, if it's really problematic, or if you just kind of want to play around and kind of see what works for you, wearing a mask over your nose and mouth. When we exhale into the mask, it can trap a lot of moisture from our exhaled breath. So then your next breath in isn't so dry. And because that's your little breathing environment for that period of time, you know, maybe from whatever environment you're in into the change in environment, like from your car into the grocery store, because that's staying steady. Maybe you might not feel the drastic change as much. Maybe that might not trigger your cough as much. It's just one of those things to kind of play around and see.
Sometimes I find too, just wearing it, if I have it on my full flow of 4 liters a minute, I just find that that's just drying in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right.
Do you use a larger concentrator at home, Jeannie?
Yeah, I use a stationary concentrator at home, but when I go out, I use liquid oxygen.
Okay. And when you're at home, do you have one of those, you can have a little bubble bottle that can add some humidity. Some people
I have
try
an
those.
actual bottle that I fill with
Yeah.
distilled water.
Yeah, those. Okay. Yeah, you got it already.
I
Yeah,
tried it
that
with
can,
the trap at one point, because a couple times I was telling the oxygen driver I would get these surprise showers. And
yeah,
then,
it can.
yeah, so, or I would have like water in the line and I could see it
Yeah. Oh,
bubbling along, right?
yeah. It can block the flow. So it's not for everyone for sure. And mostly people notice it when they have higher flows going through that it's more drying than
Mhm.
something to consider. Yeah. Nice. It's almost time. We got 1 more minute. Maybe we can end with were there any final questions? Anybody have any final question? And then we'll do a little close off, go around the room. No burning questions. Okay, then why don't we go around the room, and if everyone would like to say one thing or one word, maybe a little takeaway that you got from joining this chat and chew, any takeaway suggestions that you got from this, or thoughts or feelings you'd like to share. Just a short little one word thing. Yeah, I'll go around my Zoom screen here. Starting off with Shirley.
I just wanted to say thank you for recording them in future. That's really helpful because we aren't always available.
Awesome, thank you. And I've got Kathy.
I found it really informative. The one of the things about the windows, putting the foil on the window, like Barb was saying, even to come down on the blinds. That's very ingenious. I something that I can actually do, and so that was actually really good. Thank you. And I liked it all, but that was something that I can actually. Hey,
because you're probably not going to bring your pool inside in front of the fan, right?
No. So on some things, my husband just cuts a line on, says no. I do try.
Next I have Barb.
Maybe just to be mindful of the cool time of the day and the warm time of the day, to keep the doors and windows closed and your blinds down and stuff. Sometimes we just get busy and before we know it, it's 1 o'clock and you haven't closed the doors or windows or pulled the blinds down. So depending on where you're living, that's really good to remember.
Awesome.
And
Thank
also
you.
about moisture, I agree with you that not the bottles of water on your line is not for everybody. I worry about perhaps getting mold. I don't use mine. I have one, but I disconnected it. I didn't like to use it.
Yeah, it requires a good amount of maintenance, and you do have to switch the nasal prong parts out regularly.
And the long tubing as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Next I have Jeannie.
I like the resourcefulness and the resources that everyone shared today. I just found that a relief and just good to know.
Thanks, Jeannie. And I have Connie.
Well, I've just been trying to get up enough nerve to try the bottle thing for the humidifier. So maybe that's a no-go. But what I did learn was that I've been concerned about why my heart rate is so high. And now you're saying maybe dehydration, because I'm not as well, and I'm not able to get something to drink all the time. And so I think I probably have far less fluid than I did, even a few months ago. So
Yeah,
it's interesting that that might be what's causing it.
it could be, and especially with you're saying your place is quite warm.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was anxiety.
Could be a mix, but it's an easy one to see if it helps just by starting to drink more often, little bits regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, sips.
I'm on a fluid restriction, so I find that freezing wedges of fruit and then sucking on them really helps relieve I suppose the dehydration during the day, because I can only have 1,500 milliliters for the whole day. It's like 3 small bottles of water, so it can be quite problematic.
I'd be lucky to have that.
And they say by the time you feel thirsty, like you've probably been, dehydrated for a little bit. And I find I have such little patience with myself when I'm thirsty. I like want my water right away. So sometimes just is my big water jug, but I've got a couple of these around my house just for me in my bedroom, in my office, down here in the kitchen. And so I don't have to carry it around. It's just there when I need it. So maybe that's a little trick that might work too.
Yeah, maybe right beside your fans, Connie.
I'll think of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. This has been great connecting with all of you. We really love these opportunities and opportunities to take your questions and suggestions and feedback and provide you with more of what you're looking for. So feel free to reach out anytime, poplar@poplarpulmonary.com. Give us an email, tell us your suggestions, post it in the Poplar community so that other people can see the answers as well. Stay tuned for more. We've got the Better Breathers coming up this week too, and the Turbuhaler workshop. So yeah.
And then one last plug, because Sade is with us. Sade is going to be doing our next Chat and Chew next month, Thursday, July 18th at 2 p.m. We're going to be talking about breathing tests, about spirometry. So we hope to see you then.
See you guys there.
Hope you have some ideas for that body box.
Yes, I remember your comment, and I know it's definitely a struggle. So hopefully you can tune in and bring all your questions, and we'll see how we can do.
Shady's picture of all the trees in the back looked like several pairs of lungs.
Oh, they do. Oh, I do.
That's funny. That's true.
Trees in my picture.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe they're poplar trees. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again. And as we like to say, get out there and live your best long life.
Live your best long life.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.